A serious warning has actually been delivered or issued, okay, to the world, and of course the message carries weight that could actually shape the direction of an ongoing confusion or conflict. The president of Russia, specifically Vladimir Putin, ladies and gentlemen, spoke during a high-level security meeting and of course described what he sees as a dangerous shift in tactics by Russia's opponent. In other words, that is what's in Ukraine. His words, ladies and gentlemen, were actually firmed, okay? His tone was actually controlled. His message was actually clear. He said the battlefield has actually changed, and of course new risks are actually emerging or appearing. The meeting took place with the Board of Federal Security Service, okay, for short FSB, okay, Russia's main security agency. During this address, ladies and gentlemen, he stated that Russia's opponent or Ukraine failed, okay, to achieve their goals through direct military pressure.
They failed to deliver strategic defeat to the Russian Federation on the battlefield. So the enemy now bets on individual terrorist attacks against officers and civilian officials. Just yesterday, at the Savelovsky railway terminal, by all appearances, of course this must be confirmed by research, but by all appearances, it was a now common attempt at recruiting an individual. An individual was given an improvised explosive device, and later the device was triggered, blowing up. The attacker and two personnel. The carrier of the explosive device didn't even know what he was carrying. The enemy, using terrorist attacks, they will even stoop as low as using dirty nuclear weapons, probably knowing how it's going to end ultimately. And our operative sources say this information will probably appear in the media today. There are rumors and reports of possible bombing attacks against our gas pipelines on the bottom of the Black Sea. The so-called Blue Stream and the Turkish Stream. They really don't know what else to do to disrupt the peace process, the attempts of diplomatic settlement of what's going on. They're doing everything they can to disrupt, to undermine everything that has been achieved on this track, but we'll talk about that later. When they fail to deliver a strategic blow to the Russian Federation, a strategic defeat, but they're really yearning to do that. They probably can't live with that, or they think they can't live without delivering a strategic defeat to the Russian Federation. So they will resort to anything. And they will drive themselves to some ultimate boundary where they will greatly regret. Let's get back to business. Last year, the number of terrorist attacks grew significantly. Most of them instigated and carried out by Ukrainian special services and their European masterminds. The number of terrorist attacks against social facilities and houses using unmanned aerial vehicles of different types. To react promptly to such threats, we need to carry out additional activities such as strengthening terrorism defense, anti-terrorist defense of production facilities, residential areas and critical objects, fitting them with additional defense capabilities. This protection should be coordinated by the National Anti-Terrorism Committee, which is turning 20 years old this year. Over these years, it has contributed to creating a state-of-the-art anti-terrorism system in the country. The same dynamic efforts are especially relevant today. Together with other law enforcement authorities, the Federal Security Service must work on increasing the protection of senior officials, representatives of regional authorities, workers of education and social sphere, especially in border regions, and together with colleagues from other law enforcement services and special services, you will continue defending the country from internal and external threats. I count on you, and I wish you new significant results in your work. Thank you.
He claimed that these opponents, are now turning to targeted strikes and, of course, covert actions. He described these actions as attempts to create instability and, of course, fear. He praised the Federal Security Service officers. He said they are actually working in unison or in unity. He said they remain focused. He said they are actually protecting Russia's sovereignty and, of course, its citizens. According to him, the Security Service handled many complex tasks in 2025 across several operational zones or areas. The language used in the speech focused on defense and, of course, national protection. He warned that Russia's adversaries or enemies are actually prepared to use wide-ranging measures. He even mentioned concerns about the possible transfer of sensitive nuclear-related components, in other words, nuclear bombs. He did not actually provide more details, but the mention itself signaled the seriousness of the claim or the speech. He also stated that some actors are trying to actually interrupt progress made through negotiations. As line suggested, diplomatic talks may be under strain. He added that there are reports of possible plans targeting major energy infrastructure, including the TurkStream and, of course, Blue Stream pipelines. These pipelines, ladies and gentlemen, any threat to them raises wider economic concerns. The president said Russia is actually continuing to develop advanced military projects. He presented this as a sign of preparedness. Each statement built on the previous one. Each point pointed to rising tension. The speech was actually structured. It was actually deliberate and very intentional. It was meant to send a message or a warning. The broader situation between Russia and, of course, Ukraine remains tense. And ladies and gentlemen, international observers continue to actually monitor development closely. Statements like this, ladies and gentlemen, often signal shifts in strategy or posture. Governments pay attention, markets pay attention, and, of course, citizens as well pay attention. This address was not actually casual. It was delivered in a formal security was not certain. It focused on protection, risks, and, of course, guess what? Readiness. It suggested that the coming period may actually carry new challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, there is more benefit or under this statement. There are deeper implications tied to security, diplomacy, and, of course, regional stability. Ladies and gentlemen, and those implications are only beginning to actually unfold. Now, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? If you actually value clear and, of course, responsible analytical development like this from Africa and beyond the corners of Africa, please make sure once again to like, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell, because we are here to make sure that every single day we analyze complex development like this with you, so that you can actually better understand what is actually going on. Following the address, analysts began examining the key claims more closely. The statement that opponents or enemies have actually shifted tactics drew immediate or instant attention. In modern conflict, shifts in tactics often signal changes in strategy. The mention of targeted areas raised concerns about infrastructure security. Energy pipelines such as TurkStreams and, of course, Blue Streams are major transit routes. They connect suppliers and, of course, consumers across borders. Any interruption could actually affect multiple countries or states, not only Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, energy markets react quickly to perceived or seen risks. Even reports of possible threats can actually influence prices and, of course, investor confidence. This adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The reference to nuclear-related components or materials also drew attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the president didn't actually describe specifics. However, even indirect references to nuclear matters increase global sensitivity. International monitoring agencies track such claims, ladies and gentlemen, carefully. At the same time, he emphasized negotiation efforts. He stated that some actors are actually attempting to undermine process achieved through talks. Diplomatic channels between Russia, Ukraine, and, of course, international partners remain fragile and very delicate. Trust is actually limited. Progress is actually slow. Now, security agencies often operate quietly. Public praise for the Federal Security Service highlights its role during this particular period. According to the president, Vladimir Putin, the agency is actually fully engaged and, of course, focused. That message signals readiness, ladies and gentlemen, and preparedness. Military development was actually actually another key theme. He said Russia possesses advanced projects that are actually being implemented. He did not actually elaborate or give detailed information. Such statements, okay, or claims usually serve as deterrence signals. They actually communicate strength without revealing detail. The broader international environment remains tense. Western government, okay, actually continue to support Ukraine in this confusion. Sanctions remain in place. Military aid continues. Diplomatic efforts continue as well. Ladies and gentlemen, each element connects to a larger picture. Security, energy, diplomacy, military posture, all are actually intertwined, ladies and gentlemen, or mixed. The speech has actually now become part of the wider narrative of the conflict. It reinforces existing divisions. It signals continuous vigilance. Okay, it suggests that Russia anticipates further pressure. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching, and of course staying informed.